Hello children, welcome to our today's history session. Today we will be having lesson number 10, New Empires and Kingdoms. Children, in this lesson we are going to learn about the Prashastis. Okay, what do you mean by Prashasti? Prashasti means in praise of. So in this lesson we are going to see how some of the poets like Harisena, he has composed a poem on of his ruler, okay, Samudragupta. He has praised about the ruler Samudragupta in his poem. Again, Banabhatta, okay, he wrote a biography of his ruler Harshavardhana. And again we are going to see about Ravi Kirta. He also composed a poem of his ruler Pulakesin II. So in this lesson we are going to see the Prashastis, okay, Prashastis composed by the poets of the rulers, famous rulers. Then we are going to see about the Pallavas, Chalukyas and Pulakesin II. Again we are going to see how these kingdoms were administered. Then we are going to see the assemblies of southern India, means how the assemblies were held in South India. Then we are going to see the life of the ordinary people. So children, now let's come to our lesson history session, lesson number 10, New Empires and Kingdoms. Okay. So just now I told you the meaning of Prashastis. So Prashastis means in praise of. So earlier some of the poets, okay, they used to compose the poems by praising their rulers, okay, and then they used to get some reward, okay, like a grant of land, like this they used to get the reward in return. So Prashastis in praise of, okay. So they were composed for some great rulers like Samudragupta, then Sri Satakarni. It became far more important from the time of Guptas, means this Prashastis they became popular from the time of Gupta period. Now the poem describing about Samudragupta, it was composed by Harisena. So who is this Harisena? Harisena was a poet and plus he was also a minister. So it is inscribed on the Ashokan pillar at Allahabad. So we can find these poems, okay, composed by Harisena on the inscriptions inscribed on the Ashokan pillar at Allahabad. So these inscriptions, they are of special type, okay, this inscription is of special type known as Prashasti. This Prashasti, okay, it is a Sanskrit word. Actually Prashasti means in praise of, and Prashasti it is a Sanskrit word. So what is this Prashasti? Prashasti means in praise of. So earlier the poets, they used to describe the rulers, okay, they used to compose the poems on behalf of the rulers, and they used to get some reward in return of, they used to get reward like grant of land or some other gifts from the rulers, and it became far more important from the time of Guptas. Then the poem describing about Samudragupta, it was composed by Harisena and it is inscribed on the Ashokan pillar at Allahabad, means we can come to know this by seeing the pillar at Allahabad, and this inscription is of special type known as Prashasti, which is a Sanskrit word. So hope you understood the meaning of Prashasti and why the poets used to make this Prashastis, okay. Now we are going to see about Samudragupta's Prashasti. So Samudragupta, children, he was a very popular ruler, okay, of Gupta's dynasty. His father was Chandragupta and his mother's name was Kumara Devi. Chandragupta, he means his father, okay, Chandragupta, he adopted the title of Maharaja Adhiraja, okay. Maharaja Adhiraja means he was it is a title given to a more and stronger powerful rulers, okay. So his father Chandragupta, he was adopted the title of Maharaja Adhiraja. Then the same title was used by Samudragupta also. So the poet Harisena, he praised the king as a warrior who won victories in the battle, and also he was as equal as to God. So, this Harisena, okay, he has described the poem which we will be seeing in our textbook, okay, which we will be reading in our textbook, the poem. So, in that poem he has described Samudragupta as a warrior who has won many victories, okay, in the battle, and he was treated as equal as to God. Means people used to worship him. Harisena, he also described about 4 different rulers and Samudragupta's policies towards them. So, in his poem he also describes about the 4 different rulers who were under Samudragupta's empire. Okay, Samudragupta was a large empire under which different rulers were there. So, he has described 4 different rulers under his empire, and he has also described Samudragupta's policies towards them. So, the name of the rulers were Aryavarta, first one; second one, the rulers of Dakshinapatha; third, the inner circle of neighboring states; and fourth, the rulers of outlying areas of India. So, these were the 4 rulers of Samudragupta under which came under the Samudragupta's empire, and we will be reading about Samudragupta's policies towards them from the textbook. Okay. Now next topic is Harshavardhana and the Harsha Charita. So, Harshavardhana, he was also a great ruler of Gupta dynasty. Then he ruled over 1400 years ago. He was one of a great ruler. His poet Bana Bhatta, he wrote his biography called as Harsha Charita. Means this poet, okay, Bana Bhatta, he wrote the biography, means the whole life story of his king Harshavardhana in his book called as Harsha Charita. And this ruler Harshavardhana, he ruled over 1400 years ago. He was also a great ruler like Samudragupta. Then he became the king of Thanesar after his father and his brother's death. So, after his father's and his brother's death, he became the king of Thanesar. He took over the kingdom of Kannauj and he led an army against Bengal and conquered Magad and Bengal. So, this Harshavardhana, what he did? He took over the kingdom of Kannauj. Kingdom of Kannauj was the kingdom of his brother-in-law, but he was, after his death, okay, he was attacked by the rulers of Bengal and he died. His brother-in-law, he died. So, here this king ruler Harshavardhana, he took over the kingdom of his brother-in-law, that is Kannauj, and he led an army against the Bengal rulers and he conquered Magad and Bengal. Then afterwards, once after conquering Magad and Bengal, he marched his army towards Deccan. Okay. So, when he marched towards Deccan, that time he was stopped by Pulakeshin II or Pulakeshin II of Chalukya dynasty. So, Pulakeshin was the ruler of Chalukya dynasty and Harshavardhana was the ruler of Gupta dynasty. So, what Harshavardhana did? He when his father and his brother, eldest brother, they died, he took over the kingdom, means he became the king of Thanesar, and he also took over the kingdom of Kannauj, means it was the kingdom of his brother-in-law who was attacked by the rulers of Bengal. So, he took over the kingdom of Kannauj and he led his army against Bengal and he conquered Bengal and Magad. So, after conquering these states, he marched his army towards the Deccan, but there he was stopped by the ruler Pulakeshin II of Chalukya dynasty. Now, we are going to see about the Pallavas, Chalukyas and Pulakeshin Prashastis. So, these were some important rulers of southern India, children. Okay. So, we are going to see the Prashastis or praises of these rulers, Pallavas, Chalukyas and Pulakeshin. So, Pallavas and Chalukyas were the powerful ruling dynasties in South India. A capital city of Chalukyas was an important trading center. Okay. So Pallavas and Chalukyas were the powerful ruling dynasties of South India. Aihole, it was the capital city of Chalukyas. Okay, Chalukyas, it was a capital city where important trading which was an important trading center. The Pallavas and Chalukyas, they attacked each other's land to conquer the prosperous cities and towns. So there were many important, many prosperous and rich cities and towns in southern part of India. So these Pallavas and Chalukyas, every time they used to fight with each other, okay, they were always attacking each other's land to conquer the cities and towns. The Chalukya ruler Pulakeshin II is the best known ruler. We know about him from the Prashasti composed by his court poet Ravi Kirti. Means this Chalukya ruler, that is Pulakeshin II, he was also a best known ruler of Chalukya, okay, Chalukya dynasty, and we can get this information, we can know this from the Prashastis composed by his poet Ravi Kirti. So Ravi Kirti, he was a poet in the court of Pulakeshin II, and he has composed a poem of his ruler Pulakeshin II. So Pulakeshin II also attacked the Pallava king, okay, who took shelter behind the walls of Kanjipuram. So he was so, even Pulakeshin II was so powerful, he attacked the Pallava king, and this Pallava's king, he took a shelter behind the walls of Kanjipuram. But the Chalukyas and the Pallavas region was short lived, okay. It was not, means the Pallavas and Chalukyas reign was not for longer time, it was very short, it was very short lived. The kingdoms afterwards, they were overthrown by the Rashtrakuta and Chola dynasty, means their kingdom, their power came to an end within a short span of life. So within a short span, then these kingdoms, okay, of Rashtrakuta and Chola dynasty, they took over this Chalukya and Pallavas kingdoms. So Pallavas and Chalukyas were one of the ruling dynasties. Then, but they also always used to attack each other to conquer each other's cities and towns. Then Pulakeshin II is the best known ruler. Then he attacked Pulakeshin II, he attacked the Pallava king who took shelter behind the walls of Kanchipuram, but these Chalukyas and Pallavas rulers, they could not rule for much time. They were succeeded by the Rashtrakutas and Chola dynasties. Means this Cholas and Rashtrakutas, they overtook their power. Now we will see the administration of these kingdoms, means how was the working of these kingdoms, how the kings or rulers, they used to have a control over the villages. Okay, village was the main center. So land revenue was the basic unit of administration, means basic unit of the money, for main important thing was the revenue, okay, land revenue. These rulers, they used to collect the land revenue from the people of the villages. Then some important posts were hereditary, which means sons succeeded fathers to these posts. So here children, some post, okay, jobs, so it was hereditary. Hereditary means if a father was a carpenter, okay, then his son will also become a carpenter, or if a father is a ruler, is a king, then automatically his son will become the king, automatically his son will become a king. So this is called a hereditary, means, or suppose if a person is a poet, or if he is a minister of in the court of a king, then his son, he will automatically become the minister in the court. So it will go on. So here some important posts were hereditary, which means sons succeeded fathers to these posts. Sometimes one post held many offices, okay. Sometimes one post held many offices means one person, okay. If suppose he was a poet, then though he was a poet, he was also having other posts, like he was appointed as a minister, again minister, and again he was given some other post to look after some other work. So like this some important men, one persons held many offices. Then important men probably had a say in the local administration, means the people who were very important, they were having full power in the local administration. Then some of the kings, they maintained a well organized army with elephants, chariots, foot soldiers, etc. So some of the kings, okay, they were rulers. Some of the rulers or the kings, they had a well organized army, okay, they had a military army, they had a well organized army with lots of elephants with them. Then they used to have chariots, they used to have foot soldiers. There were also military leaders who provided troops to these kings. Okay, in the villages or in the towns there were military leaders that provided the troops to the king, and they received grants of land from this king. So these military leaders, they used to provide all the troops, okay, whatever required in the war. So they used to provide the troops to these rulers, and in return they used to get the grants of land, okay. And from these grants of land, these military leaders, they used to collect the revenue or taxes. Then these military leaders are known as Samantas, okay. So who are Samantas, children? Samantas means the military leaders, okay, who provided the troops to the kings, and they received the grants of land from the rulers, and they collected revenues or taxes from the people from this land. They are called as Samantas. In this way, the administration of the kingdom was working or was going on, or the king, it was the kingdom, the kings used to administer their kingdoms. Now we are going to see the assemblies in the southern kingdoms, okay. So the inscription of Pallavas mentioned a number of local assemblies. There were number of assemblies, number of local assemblies used to held. First one, Sabha. Now we will see even what is this Sabha, okay. Sabha was an assembly of Brahmin landowners, okay. Sabha means what? It was an assembly, it was a meeting of the people of only Brahmins, okay, of only Brahmins and landowners. And these people, they used to look after the irrigation, they used to look after the local temples, then agricultural operations and so on. So here it was an assembly of Brahmins and landowners, Brahmin landowners. Then another meeting was of Ur. So what do you mean by Ur? Ur was a village assembly found in areas where landowners were not Brahmins. So this is one more assembly where the Brahmins were not there, okay, where the landowners were not the Brahmins, and it was found in local areas, or it was a village assembly. Yeah. And third one was Nagaram. So what do you mean by Nagaram? Nagaram means assemblies. Here they were controlled by rich and powerful landowners and merchants, okay. So Nagaram means the assemblies which were controlled by rich and powerful landowners and merchants. So children, here we have seen the three types of assemblies that were held in southern India, okay. So first one was Sabha, where the landowners were Brahmins, okay, they were only, it was an assembly of only Brahmin land owners, and they used to look after the work of irrigation, then local temples, agricultural operations, etc. Then the second assembly was of Ur. Ur means it was a village assembly found in the areas where landowners were not Brahmins. And third one, Nagaram. Nagaram means it was the assemblies which were controlled by rich and powerful landowners and merchants. Now we will come to our next topic, that is the life of people, ordinary people in the kingdoms, okay. So through the place of Kalida, how we came to know about the life of the people. So we came to know about the life. We can means we can come by we have came to know about the life of the ordinary people by seeing the plays of Kalidasa. Okay, through the plays of Kalidasa, we came to know the king and the Brahmins. They speak Sanskrit while the ordinary people speak Prakrit. Prakrit means their local language. Okay, so from the plays of Kalidasa, we have come to know that the kings and the Brahmins, they used to speak Sanskrit language, and the ordinary people, they used to speak Prakrit language. Again, the Chinese pilgrim, that is Faxian, he noticed the plight of those who were treated as untouchables. Okay, the Chinese pilgrim Faxian, he noticed the plight of those who were treated as untouchables by the high and mighty. So this Chinese pilgrim, okay, what he noticed that there were peoples who were treated as untouchable by the high or mighty communities. And if such person, okay, if such untouchable person, if he enters a town, then what he does, children? He strikes a piece of wood, okay, he makes a sound of wood, so that other people would avoid touching him. Means other people will come to know, yes, he is untouchable, so they will avoid touching him. Okay, so this Chinese pilgrim Faxian, he noticed the plight of those who were treated as untouchables by the high and mighty communities, and if such a man, he enters a town, he strikes a piece of wood to keep himself separate, and people would avoid touching him. So this was how the life of the ordinary people in the kingdom was going on. Now I think this was the last concept, children. So yeah. So now we are going to see a video. Okay, I will show you a video.
New empires and kingdoms. Gupta Empire existed approximately from 320 to 550 CE and covered most of northern India. It was known as the Golden Age of India. Patliputra, Prayag and Ujjain were the important centers of Gupta rulers. Chandragupta I was succeeded by his son Samudragupta, and Samudragupta was succeeded by his son Chandragupta II. They were the great rulers of Gupta dynasty. Samudragupta was perhaps the greatest king of Gupta dynasty. Coins minted by him reveal much information about his empire. His braveness as a great warrior is evident in the inscription of Allahabad pillar. Inscription in an authentic source of Samudragupta's reign, glory and lineage, which was composed by Harisena in Sanskrit, the court poet of Samudragupta. Samudragupta expanded the Gupta Empire by winning a series of battles. He forcibly rooted up the 9 North Indian states called Aryavarta. Soon he defeated the kings of Dakshinapad and withdrew after using their riches. In a circle of neighbouring states of Assam, coastal Bengal, Nepal and number of Gansangas paid tributes, obeyed orders and attended his court. He also fought with descendants of Kushanas, Shakas and rulers of Sri Lanka, and ultimately they submitted to him. As Samudragupta was very kind, he showed great nobility towards all those kings who were defeated, and gave autonomy to various tribal states under his protection. Apart from bravery, Samudragupta was also known for his keen interest in music. He was a great poet and a musician. His court was adorned with the famous poet Kalidas and the astronomer Aryabhatta. Kalidas authored the famous play Abhigyan Shakuntalam, and Aryabhatta wrote famous book Aryabhatyam in Sanskrit and stated that day and night were caused by the rotation of the earth on its axis. He also gave scientific explanation for eclipses and formula for calculating circumference of a circle. As the glory of Gupta Empire was spreading with time, Chandragupta I and Samudragupta adopted the title of Maharaj Dhiraj, means Supreme King of Kings, whereas son of Samudragupta, Chandragupta II adopted the title of Vikramaditya. After the decline of the Gupta Empire, many new kingdoms came to prominence, such as Kingdom of Harsha in the north, Chalukyas in the Deccan and Pallavas in the south, who ruled over India for several years.
So children, you have seen the video, okay? You have seen the video of Gupta dynasty and other kingdoms, and hope you have enjoyed the video also. So just we will recapitulate whatever we have learned in this lesson, children, okay? So in this lesson we have seen about the Prashastis, okay? Prashastis means in praise of the rulers, how the poets they used to compose the poems in praise of their rulers. Then we have seen about Samudragupta's Prashasti. Again here we have seen how Harisena, okay, he describes in his poem about Samudragupta, and again he also described about the 4 different rulers under Samudragupta's policies. Then we have seen about Harshavardhana and Harshacharita, okay, how the poet Bhanabhatta, he wrote the biography of his ruler Harshavardhana in the book Harshacharita. Then we have seen how he became, after the death of his father and his brother, he became the king of Thanisar, and he took over the kingdom of Kannauj and led an army against Bengal, and he conquered Magad and Bengal. Then he marched towards the Deccan, but he was stopped by Pulakeshin II of Chalukya dynasty. Then we have seen about, today we have seen about the Pallavas, Chalukyas and Pulakeshin's Prashastis of southern India. So these Pallavas and Chalukyas, they were one of the powerful ruling dynasties at that time. Then Aihole was the capital of Chalukya dynasty. Then these Pallavas and Chalukyas, they always used to attack each other to conquer the cities and towns. Then Pulakeshin II, he was a best known ruler of Chalukyas dynasty. Then his Prashastis was composed by the poet called Ravi Kirti. Then Pulakeshin II also he attacked the Pallava king, who took shelter behind the walls of Kanjipuram. Then we have seen administration of the kingdoms. So here we have seen about how the land revenue was the basic unit of administration. Then here some of the important posts were hereditary, which means sons succeeded fathers to these posts. Again, some of the men probably they had a say in local administration. Then some of the kings they maintained a well organized army. These and the military leaders, they used to provide the kings with these troops, and these military leaders were known as Samantas. And the last we have seen about the different assemblies in the southern kingdom and the life of the ordinary people in the kingdom. So hope you have understood this lesson, children. In the next session we will be reading the textbook. So we will meet you in the next session. Till then, see you. Goodbye. Thank you.